Tropical Storm Barry just became the second named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season as it makes landfall on the east coast of Mexico. We're also watching another disturbance off the coast of the southeastern U.S., and Tropical Storm Flossie is expected to become a hurricane in the eastern Pacific, with more to follow. With tropical activity ramping up as we head toward July, in this video I'm going to be showing the latest information on all of that. But first, if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button for more weather updates. So, here's a look at the satellite imagery of the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. Here's Tropical Storm Barry, and here's Tropical Storm Flossie. The NHC has the current winds on Tropical Storm Barry at 45 miles an hour, minimum central pressure at 1006 millibars, and it's moving northwest at 9 miles per hour. And pretty much it's going to make landfall on the east coast of Mexico within the next couple of hours. But then there's also a disturbance off the southeastern U.S. with a 20% chance of tropical cyclone formation in the next 7 days. They're saying that an area of low pressure could actually develop from a frontal system off the east coast, and it could try to become a tropical or subtropical storm around next weekend. And then we're also looking at Tropical Storm Flossie. Current winds are at 40 miles an hour. This is just becoming a tropical storm right now, moving west-northwest at 8 miles per hour, and it's actually going to become a hurricane, apparently. But then there's also another disturbance right by it. An area of low pressure could actually form kind of in the same place and has a 20% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next 7 days. So here's the key messages for Tropical Storm Barry. It's pretty much just heavy rainfall and gusty winds. Especially the gusty winds part is going to be later today, tonight, over parts of eastern Mexico, and then the heavy rain is going to be across northeastern Mexico through Monday, with the potential for flooding and mudslides. Here's the satellite imagery of Tropical Storm Barry. It's definitely not very organized at all. It looks very sheared also, and just not much of anything really. The cone shows, yeah, pretty much later tonight it's just gonna move inland, and pretty much that's the end of it. But at least we got another named storm. So now we're at 2 named storms for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, and we're just gonna keep adding more. On the low level vorticity, you can see that it's not a very organized system at all. The HAFS-A model is having a really hard time even showing where the center of circulation is. So Tropical Storm Barry is really a mess. But there's another storm system that could end up forming late this week into next weekend, potentially. According to the GFS model, we have this kind of frontal boundary kind of stalled off the southeastern U.S., and it kind of shows that a low pressure system forming around Florida by kind of July 4th going into Saturday morning, July 5th. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with this, because it actually looks like it could have a slight opportunity to try and do something around July 5th, even July 6th, before it's expected to kind of just fade out and maybe potentially go back inland by July 7th. So we'll have to see. This is something to watch. We could have another tropical system kind of forming very quickly. We've had Andrea, that kind of formed kind of out of a frontal system, and then now we've had Barry, that was a quick forming system, and then now we could have this. So definitely there are going to be opportunities like this for tropical development to happen, depending on if this disturbance off the coast of the southeastern U.S. or maybe over Florida, off the Gulf Coast, if it's able to form, there's going to be shear. That might be a problem, but the moisture should be mostly favorable, at least at first, but then the shear is actually going to increase and the moisture could actually drop. We'll have to see. This is still almost a week out, so definitely something to watch, but we don't know for sure what this is actually going to do, because even the Euro model doesn't really show much with it. If anything, possibly forming off the east coast of Florida. So there's a lot of uncertainty with this, but definitely something to watch. Even the ensembles, even the GEFS ensemble is showing some potential really showing potential around Florida for this to try and become a quick forming tropical system. Really around the July 3rd all the way to July 6th timeframe. So that's going to be interesting. We actually have more tropical activity. We have a hurricane expected to form out of this. This is Tropical Storm Flossie in the eastern Pacific, and it's just become a tropical storm really over the past few hours, and so it's starting to get organized. The key messages for Tropical Storm Flossie are that the outer bands of Tropical Storm Flossie will bring heavy rain across the coast of southwestern Mexico, with flooding and mudslides expected as well again. And there's also a tropical storm watch for the coast of southwestern Mexico, and they might have to have tropical storm warnings for this. It's going to get close. It's not necessarily going to make a direct landfall, but the cone is definitely showing that it could come pretty close to the coast of Mexico, and it's expected to reach hurricane intensity within the next 36 hours or so. By 12 a.m. Tuesday, we're looking at a hurricane, and it could keep that intensity for a little over a day, all the way into Wednesday afternoon, before it moves into cooler waters and weakens back down to a tropical storm by Thursday afternoon. And then by Friday afternoon, July 4th, it's pretty much not a tropical system anymore. And Flossie is definitely a more organized system than Barry, though. You can see that on the satellite imagery and also on the low-level vorticity. It's definitely a well-defined system compared with Barry. There's also that other disturbance that was mentioned by the NHC that could actually turn into something after Flossie. Here's the track guidance for Tropical Storm Flossie, keeping it off the coast of Mexico, but could actually end up approaching Baja California within the next 5 to 7 days. Definitely could bring in some winds, even though those will be decreasing, but also heavy rain all along the coast of southwestern Mexico and also into Baja California. The intensity guidance actually intensifies this pretty quickly, so theoretically we could see a hurricane within 24 hours according to some of the forecast models, and then potentially a category 2, maybe a category 3, like depending on if it's able to rapidly intensify. That's possible, like Eric. And so we could definitely see a rapidly intensifying Flossie. We'll have to see if it's able to do that, but a hurricane is pretty likely with Flossie. Most of the models are showing that. Also, the potential is there for a category 2 or higher hurricane. And the HAFS-A model, is intensifying it at a steady but not extreme rate until we get to really June 30th. No, this is going into Monday night, and then it does actually kind of intensify pretty quickly going into Tuesday night, going into early Wednesday. It has a time frame where it could rapidly intensify somewhat into a pretty decent hurricane before it approaches Baja California and really starts to wind down. And the winds actually can intensify pretty quickly. We have the HAFS-A model bringing it up to a high-end tropical storm, maybe winds of 70 miles an hour tomorrow night. And then it does become a hurricane, 75 mile an hour winds, Cat 1. And it kind of stays like that. But then, as we go into Tuesday afternoon, it intensifies a bit more, all the way up to even 80 knots. That's 90 miles an hour, potentially approaching category 2 strength. Yeah, 80. It actually shows at 8 a.m. July 2nd, so Wednesday morning, there's a brief period where it reaches 100 miles an hour. That's a category 2, and then it definitely starts winding down pretty quickly after that. So this could be a pretty strong hurricane, but it's not going to cause too many impacts in terms of the wind. It's mostly going to be the rain and potentially some gusty winds in the outer bands of Flossie along the coast of Mexico. Because here's the GFS model showing it starting to intensify, a lot of the outer bands affecting the coast of Mexico, but also just heavy rain across Mexico and even further north, just of all that tropical moisture just being pulled north of the hurricane. Some of this is related to Flossie, some of it isn't, but definitely seeing a lot of heavy rain across the coast there as this starts moving up, and it could actually get pretty intense category 1, category 2 on the GFS model even. And then a lot of this moisture is even going to be reaching Arizona. So we have heavy rain across Arizona, New Mexico from Flossie, all that moisture being pulled up. And so that's going to be around July 3rd, July 2nd, July 3rd, with a lot of that moisture reaching Arizona. And then notice another hurricane, an even bigger hurricane possibly forming as soon as July 5th or 6th, but really intensifying from around July 7th to July 9th. And this could intensify all the way down to a 960 millibar category 3 hurricane. So that's a pretty significant hurricane there before that one kind of moves off to the west, so it doesn't bring in as much moisture perhaps into the southwestern U.S. But then we have another potential hurricane, and this one moving westward again, so the storm track may be shifting a bit further away from the coast of Mexico, but still more tropical activity happening all the way into July 15th, according to the GFS model in the eastern Pacific. But what about the Atlantic? There's a few opportunities for tropical systems, but in general, not anything big out of the main development region or anything like that. But here's a look at the MJO. Right now, it's technically unfavorable, but we're seeing tropical activity. So just because it's in a supposedly unfavorable phase doesn't mean we can't see any hurricane activity. But as we go towards July 4th, more favorable over the eastern Pacific. July 9th, same thing, but closer to neutral. And then it's neutral to slightly favorable over the eastern Pacific, maybe even the western Atlantic, all the way into July 19th before maybe unfavorable again around July 24th. And then after this, of course, this is definitely subject to change, but we could see things becoming neutral to slightly favorable again, maybe more towards the Atlantic once we go into late July into early August. So that's definitely something important to watch, especially as the main development region starts to activate. So far right now, the GFS model is not showing a whole bunch of tropical activity out of the main development region. There are tropical waves, though. If you notice, we're starting to see those tropical waves moving through. So that's definitely a sign of things starting to get more active, especially as we go towards mid-July. But notice there's still a lot of dry air across the Atlantic at times, but notice the Caribbean kind of area, the Gulf, also off the East Coast, there's a lot of frontal activity, and that's going to produce several opportunities for tropical development, especially off the East Coast of the U.S. That's going to be an area that I'm thinking is definitely important to watch. Especially notice these sea surface temperatures are very warm, even over 30 degrees Celsius along the Gulf Coast, and also mid-80s off the east coast of the U.S., even going into the kind of parts of the central Atlantic. Interestingly enough, the main development region is slightly above average in some places, but oftentimes near to slightly below average. And even the Caribbean and the Gulf, these were places that were really super warm last year. Now it's cooler, interestingly enough, slightly below average. But now a lot of that warmth is actually further north, and so that's interesting because that could, like, it's kind of like Andrea formed up here, and so this could actually help to create some tropical activity out here from frontal systems that could more easily turn into subtropical or even tropical storm systems if they're able to get disconnected from those fronts and actually get more tropical characteristics. But this is a very interesting way that the sea surface temperatures are set up across the Atlantic. And so this is the main area I have highlighted to watch for tropical development potential in July. Definitely the eastern part of the Gulf, like around Florida, like this disturbance that we're seeing off the southeastern U.S., and then also other frontal activity could definitely impact the southeastern U.S. and even further out where there's potential, even though these will probably be more fish storms if they form way out here towards like Bermuda or something like that, but still definitely some interesting things to watch in the tropics. So yeah, that's pretty much what's supposed to be going on in the tropics in July before the main development region potentially heats up going into the beginning of August. If you liked this video, please be sure to hit the like button. If you haven't already, share the video and make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for more weather updates on the tropics. Thanks for watching. Extreme Weather Zone, out.